There's one tool in this video that, if you buy the cheap version, can drop a car right on top of you. Not dent the fender, not scratch the paint. Kill you. Over 1.5 million of them got recalled by the government for exactly that, collapsing under load with a person underneath. And the recall notice told owners to stop using them immediately because people had already been hurt. And here's the part that should stick with you. It's the one tool on this entire list that people are most tempted to grab the bargain version of. Because sitting on the shelf, it looks exactly like the good one. Same shape, same rating stamped on the side, a third of the price. You're going to hear which tool it is and exactly what to buy instead. But first, let's go through the tools you actually need, because most of the aisle is lying to you in the other direction too. My name's Walt Renner. A few years back, I paid extra for a product with the best reviews I could find, and it cost me real money when those reviews turned out not to be testing anything. So now, I don't buy the tool with the biggest number on the box. I went looking at what actually matters on a tool versus what the packaging is selling you. The difference between the thing that makes you a better mechanic and the thing that just makes the box look impressive on the shelf. And it comes down to two numbers, neither of which is the one printed biggest on the front. No sponsors, nobody paying me to point you at a brand. Before I go any further, I want to mention something once because it matters, and then I won't bring it up again. There's more to how I actually run these investigations than fits into any single video. The full breakdown of how I dig into a product before I trust it, how I track down what actually holds up and verify it before any of it goes in a script, and the stuff that gets ruled out before it ever makes a list. I wrote all of it up on my website, and the link's just below. I won't mention it again. If it interests you, it's there. Now here's the reframe that changes how you shop for every tool in this video. The number on the front of the box, 250 pieces, 300 pieces, is not the number that matters. A 250-piece kit can be missing the exact two sizes you'll reach for on every single job, while a smaller kit has every one of them. The piece count is there to make you feel like you're getting more for your money. What actually matters is two things. Does it have the sizes you'll really use? And does it have a lifetime warranty? That's it. That's the whole test. And if you've ever stood in that aisle feeling like the whole thing was designed to confuse you into overpaying, I want you to know you were right. It is. So let me show you how to beat it, category by category, starting with the foundation of any kit. Start with the sockets, because this is where every kit begins and where the piece count trap does the most damage. Picture two kits side by side. One's a 250-piece set, looks huge, feels like a bargain. The other's got only 159 pieces and costs a little more. Common sense says buy the big one. Common sense is wrong here. Because when you actually open the big kit, the wrenches skip the 14mm, which is a size you'll use on almost every job, and the sockets skip the 13, another one you reach for constantly. So now you're driving back to the store to buy the two sizes your 250-piece kit somehow forgot, which tells you something. That kit wasn't designed by someone who works on cars. It was designed to hit a big number on the box. The smaller kit had both sizes because it was built around what a mechanic actually uses, not around a piece count. Here's your buy signal for sockets. Make sure the metric sizes run up to at least 22mm and the standard up to 1 inch. And make sure the whole thing carries a lifetime warranty. That warranty is the quiet thing that separates a real kit from a bargain bin one. It means if anything ever breaks, you walk back in and swap it for a new one. No charge, no receipt hunt. The cheap sets off the online bargain shelf almost never have it. So the first time a socket cracks, you're buying it again. Count the sizes, not the pieces, and check for that warranty. Do that, and you've already dodged the most common way this aisle takes your money. A few socket accessories genuinely earn their place, so grab these while you're there. Adapters and swivels, which let you run a bigger socket on a smaller wrench or reach around a corner in a tight engine bay, and most kits skip them entirely. You can mix and match them like Lego, dropping a big half-inch socket onto a smaller wrench when that's the only length that fits the gap you're working in. Socket-driven Allen and Torx bits, because trying to torque a bolt with one of those little folding L keys just tears up your fingers, and the moment you can put a socket on it and get real leverage, a whole category of jobs gets easier. And a set of larger sockets for lug nuts and suspension bolts, since a lot of kits stop short of the big sizes you need for the heavy stuff. None of that is exotic, it's just the stuff the starter kit quietly leaves out and then makes you drive back for. Now for the part that's actually fun, the hand tools, because this is where a few cheap, honest tools just make your life better with no catch at all. Ratcheting wrenches, which save you from resetting the wrench on every single turn and slip into spots a socket won't reach. Channel locks for grabbing anything, any size, fast. A set of vice grips, hopefully your dad's or grandpa's old pair, for when a bolt is stripped and nothing else will bite. A half-inch breaker bar, which is just a long lever, but that leverage is what frees a seized bolt without rounding it off. A big adjustable wrench for holding one end of something while you turn the other. A pry bar, the 14-inch one with a little kick at the tip, earns its keep on serpentine belts and stuck alternators. Right-angle needle nose pliers, which you'll somehow reach for on nearly every job. And a trim clip remover, which is the one nobody buys for years, cuts their hands up on screwdrivers instead, then finally buys and wonders how they lived without it. Add picks, a magnet on an extendable stick for the bolt you will absolutely drop, a dead blow hammer, and a torque wrench. On the torque wrench, get the one with the lower range, 5 to 80 foot-pounds, because it's far more useful on a car than the ones that only start at 30 or 50. None of these tools are out to get you. They just quietly make everything easier. Now, before we go further, here's the first place the aisle tries to empty your wallet from the top end. You'll see high-end brands like Snap-on sitting there, gorgeous tools, and costing 3 to 4 times what the hardware store kit costs. And here's the honest truth about them. They're genuinely excellent tools. But they're built for someone who turns wrenches 40 hours a week and needs them to survive a decade of daily professional abuse. Unless that's you, the extra money isn't buying you a better repair. It's buying you a feeling. The good news, and this is the part that should take the pressure off, is that a lifetime warranty Craftsman or Husky kit does the exact same job in your driveway, and you keep the difference in your pocket. You are not a worse mechanic for skipping the premium badge. You're just a richer one. Now we get to the power tools, and there are 3 that matter, and I'll tell you where to start if you can only afford one. The half-inch impact is the workhorse. It's what gets the big stuff off: lug nuts, suspension bolts, the seized fasteners you'd otherwise be fighting with a breaker bar. The quarter-inch impact is the little sidekick, and it's a massive time saver on all the small stuff. A valve cover comes off in seconds. And the 3/8 impact ratchet is the specialist that squeezes into narrow spots the other 2 can't reach, like dropping down between the radiator and the engine and still getting impact power in a space barely wider than your hand. There's a trick with that one too. If a bolt's really tight, you can crack it loose by hand first without pulling the trigger, then fire the trigger to spin it the rest of the way out. Here's the one that matters most though. If your budget only stretches to a single power tool, buy the half-inch impact. The other 2 save you time, which is nice, but the half-inch impact actually gets bolts off that are close to impossible otherwise, because it shocks them loose instead of just muscling them. And that shock is often what breaks a bolt free where a breaker bar would have snapped it clean off. Start there. And whatever brand you pick, from Milwaukee down to a hardware store name, make sure it carries a good warranty, because a tool you can walk in and swap for free when the battery dies is a tool that lasts forever. The premium brands feel nicer in the hand, no argument. But a mid-range impact with a solid warranty will pull the lug nuts off your driveway just as well as the one that costs twice as much. Now, here's a stretch of genuinely satisfying news: the diagnostic tools. Because this is where cheap absolutely beats expensive, and it's not close. Start with a multimeter. A $30 one from the hardware store will diagnose 90% of the electrical problems in your car, checking voltage at the battery and the alternator, testing whether a fuse or a wire is passing current, even finding what's quietly draining your battery overnight while the car sits. That last one alone, a parasitic draw that kills your battery every couple of days, is something a shop will charge you an hour of diagnostic labor to chase. And you can find it yourself in your driveway with this $30 tool and 10 minutes. $30. Then a code reader, so that when the check engine light comes on, you can find out why instead of paying a shop to plug in the same tool. Get one that reads live data, and if you like, a little Bluetooth dongle that sends it all to your phone. But my favorite tool on this entire list costs $10, and it's a mechanic's stethoscope. It's the same idea as the one a doctor uses, except instead of a heartbeat, you touch the probe to different points on the running engine and hear exactly what's happening at that one spot. A noise you couldn't place from across the garage, you can pinpoint to the exact bearing in about 30 seconds. $10, no batteries, nothing to break, and it saves you from tearing half the engine apart just to find the sound. There's also a power probe, which I'll be honest with you about. It's a luxury, not an essential. But it's so handy for chasing a dead electrical component that I keep one around. You can find an older used one for around $60. These are the little wins, the tools that hand you what a shop charges a diagnostic fee for the price of lunch. And notice the pattern with all three. None of them is the expensive version, and none of them needs to be. In diagnostics, the cheap tool and the pricey tool read the exact same voltage and the exact same code. You're not buying accuracy when you spend more here. You're buying a nicer case. All right, everything up to now has been about saving money or saving time. This next one is different, and I need you to slow down for it, because it's the one I told you about at the very start of this video. It's the single place in this entire kit where saving the wrong $40 can actually get you killed. The jack and the jack stands that go with it. Here's what happens. You go to the auto parts store and you see a cheap 2-ton jack for $40 or $50 sitting right next to the good ones, looking close enough to the same thing. And the temptation is enormous, because it's just a jack, right? How different can they be? Here's how different. The government recalled more than 1.5 million Harbor Freight jack stands because they could collapse under load, buckling with a vehicle on top of them. And the notice told everyone who owned them to stop using them immediately, because injuries had already happened. One real owner watched a 3-ton jack fail on a bone stock F150 on flat, level pavement, a truck well under the jack's rating, dropping it like a ton of bricks. That wasn't him overloading it or using it wrong. It was a tool built cheap, failing the one time it mattered. And it doesn't announce itself before it goes. A cheap jack works fine, works fine, works fine. And then one day, a seam weld lets go under a load it handled 100 times before. And if you're underneath when it does, there's no second chance and no warranty that brings you back. And here's the part that should genuinely bother you. the part that ties the whole thing together. A jack stand isn't even the tool doing the lifting. It's the backup. It's the mechanical safety that's supposed to catch the car and save your life if the jack fails. The thing being sold as your safety net was the exact thing that dropped the car. So on this one, and only this one, the cheap version isn't a bad deal. It's a hazard with a price tag. Buy a 2.5-ton jack at minimum from a maker with a real reputation to protect. The kind of jack you can actually rebuild the seals on years later instead of throwing away when it starts to sink. Buy stands to match it. And inspect both every single time before any part of your body goes under that car. So look at what the tool aisle just tried to do to you, coming and going. On one end, it sells you a snap-on badge you don't need, 3 or 4 times the price for a feeling. On the other end, it sells you a jack you can't trust, the one place where the cheap choice can put you in the hospital. And both of them feel like smart money in the moment. One is overspending on prestige you'll never use. The other is underspending on your own life. That's the whole game. The aisle isn't built to get your car fixed. It's built to move you toward the expensive thing where the price doesn't matter, and let you drift toward the cheap thing exactly where it does. One last practical piece, and it's a calm one. Storage. However you keep these tools, the goal is simple. You want to find the tool you need without digging to the bottom of a black hole. The old top-opening toolbox works, right up until the thing you want is buried under everything else. A stackable drawer system, the kind on wheels with drawers that lock, runs around $250 and saves you that dig. And if you ever do mobile work, you can roll the whole thing to the car. A big stationary tool chest for the garage is nice too, but those start around $400 or $500 and up. Either way, organized tools are tools you'll actually use, instead of rebuying because you couldn't find the first one. So here's the whole thing on one card, simple enough to carry into the store in your head. When you buy a tool, ignore the piece count and ignore the brand prestige, and check 2 things instead. Does it have the sizes you'll actually use? And does it carry a lifetime warranty? That single test covers almost everything in this video and keeps the aisle from selling you a number or a badge dressed up as value. And then the one exception, the one place you never, ever cheap out, is anything that holds a car up in the air over your body. Buy the jack and the stands from a maker who will still be around to answer for them, and check them every time before you slide underneath. Save your money everywhere it doesn't matter, so you can spend it in the one place it does. Run every tool you're tempted by through 2 questions before it goes in the cart. First, am I paying for a size and a warranty I'll actually use, or a number and a badge that just look like value? And second, on anything that holds weight over my body, am I trying to save money in the one place where saving it can hurt me? Get those 2 right, and you'll build a better kit than most people who spent twice as much, because you bought for the job instead of for the box. Tell me in the comments, what's the one tool you put off buying for way too long and then couldn't believe you ever lived without? Because everybody's got one, and the answers are how the rest of us find the tools we didn't know we needed. I read every one of these, and if somebody in your life is about to slide under a car on a bargain bin jack, send them this before they do, because that's the one that actually matters. Next time, I'm going through the DIY jobs that save you the most money with the exact tools you just bought. And the very first one on that list is a repair that shops routinely charge $200 for and costs you about $15 to do yourself in your own driveway. Once you see how simple it is, you're going to be a little annoyed you ever paid for it.